So, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. We are on Friday, February 20th, a week after the February 13th. There you go. Friday the 13th. So, we all survived that scare, didn't we?
I wonder how many people made it down to Port Dover on Friday,
Actually,
on February 13th.
Was it? I don't think it was passable last week, was it, on a lot of the roads?
I don't know, but you get some diehards probably trying to get there.
Sorry?
Maybe we'll get the Hell's Angels going down there.
Yeah. All right. Morning, Mike. Morning, everybody else. Welcome to Talking Now this morning. It's the end of another week. Okay. So we mentioned this briefly yesterday. The Gaza death toll exceeded 75,000. This is what peer-reviewed studies reveal as official counts representing the lowest number, whilst there are some people that claim much higher death toll.
Yeah, you can't. The Israeli, in all the wars past, the Israeli death toll and the Hamas or Palestinian Authority death toll numbers are very close. And you can expect of course, there's always a suspicion that the Hamas one inflates it and the Israeli one subtracts it, reduces it. But in this particular case, I think the Israeli numbers came out at least 68,000 and change, close to 67,000, I think, is a minimum amount killed. As I said before, it was 56% women, children, and old people.
Yeah.
So in Gaza, over half of the people are of children over 14 and under. And if you go up to 18 and under, it's like almost 2/3 of the population are 18 and under. Yeah. So anyone who says, though, well, they got what they wanted because that's the way they voted, none of them voted. And of the remaining people who were alive at that time and did vote, only 40% voted for Hamas during that one election. And it may be infected. Once they got in, of course, they do what they normally do. They go around and do charitable things and get everybody on their side, get people going to school, helping people out with their bills, everything like that. In the meantime, preparing for war and doing their nasty stuff, kind of like the Nazis did. Or
there are people out in social media land that say this never occurred.
What never occurred?
This whole thing. There was no death toll. This whole Gaza thing never occurred.
Yeah.
You know, you've met them, right?
Yeah, there you can find them right beside the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah,
I haven't met anyone who denies this. What you do get, which is I know discouraging to me, is people saying, "Well, what are you going to do? The Israelis are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're defending themselves." But when you come along and you find that they can surgically hit one or two targets here and there, it becomes pretty clear that they could take out a lot of these.
Absolutely.
A lot of these guys, without taking out the whole building. Meanwhile, they've destroyed the whole city. Like they're supposed to have 35,000 to 40,000 Hamas fighters, and they wiped out 85% of every building.
And by comparison,
every school, every mosque is blown to bits.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and by comparison, they went into Venezuela's capital city and took out the president without killing anybody else.
Well, they killed 100 guys, but they were defense people, so they were soldiers, right?
Yeah, they were combatants. They didn't manage to. They didn't even blow up the town, right? That was what you call
they blew up certain things that was required. Yeah, but yeah.
That was what you call a surgical strike, right? They went in, they achieved their goal, they got out, right?
Yeah, and they're capable of doing that anywhere. So the very idea that you had 1,200 people die when Hamas attacked under Yahya Sinwar, I think it was a surprise to anyone. They could just drive up to the fences, rip it down, and drive in. Their whole mission was to collect a bunch of hostages because they can use them for they can use them hostages for negotiations. I think they got way more than they ever thought they were going to get, farther than they ever thought they were going to get. And most of those guys thought it was a suicide mission. Half of them did die when they got there, but it was so easy for them. So Netanyahu told every Israelis that's impervious, that no one has to fear. And when you drive up with a front end loader, rip down the fence and run into the country. So 1,200 people died, 800 by the hand of Hamas, another 400 by friendly fire. A lot of the people got killed by is the confused counterattack of the Israelis, who killed a lot of the IDF, who killed a lot of Israelis. And then, of course, the 250 people who were hostages. And then to pay back for that, you pay. So there's 1,200 people and hostages. So you kill 70 people for every one that was killed on the Israeli side. 70 to 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus, you make it impossible for them to live in the land.
And while we're on the subject of war,
yes,
right. The Earth is not flat. What? Mike is making a joke out of that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Although it's not exactly flat, it's kind of bumpy.
U.S. military is ready for a possible Iran strike, but Trump is yet to make that decision.
Well, it looks like he's preparing for an incredible.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks as if Trump is looking for an incredible victory of using the outsized abilities of the U.S. Military to strike an incredible strike, judging by all the equipment they have going there. Now, what they aren't prepared for is a land move. So don't expect any kind of soldiers on the ground. They've learned their lesson in Iraq and Afghanistan. They win the initial war and then get beat up over years. Like we saw what happened in Iraq. The U.S. got beat up there pretty bad after initially beating Saddam. They got beat up pretty bad in Afghanistan too after initially winning there. So and Iran is a much bigger place. So it looks like what they're going to do, or at least what they're threatening to do, and I don't know if it's a bluff or not, they're going to bomb the crap out of Iran in a huge way. I think probably they may be looking for surgical strikes and maybe making a kind of sort of a feint. We don't know. They say they have 10 days to come up with a deal.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that there is going to be some kind of deal.
Well, Mike thinks they're going to hit this weekend. And Britain has told them they cannot use their air bases for the Iran attack.
No, because I think Britain's smart here. Somebody's got to be able to talk between Iran and the United States. And if Britain stays out of it, actually, they can be that.
It makes a great deal of sense to say that, because in fact, actually, Britain potentially has a good role, potential role in being that peacemaker at the end of the day, and they are a voice that is known in that area, right?
Oh yeah, loved and hated all at the same time.
Yeah, of course, but historically they're a voice that is known in that area.
Yeah, but it's also a voice close to the U.S. Now,
less so today.
What?
Less so today.
Well, who else? Who else can talk to the U.S.? Who else is there?
Yeah, but okay, there is that. Okay, but there was a time when the U.S. said jump and the Britain said how high.
Yeah, But right now, who's closer? Who's going to be able to talk to the U.S.?
Oh yeah, I know.
Right? If we say something, get stuff. Britain is still a world power. It still has nukes, so it still has sway.
Yeah.
France? Do you think they're going to listen to France? No, they're not going to listen to France. So
they need the UK.
Yeah, there's got to be somebody in between. But this is going to be a horrific thing. Now, Trump and the West, not only just Trump, but encourage the protesters. Says, we got your back if you protest. Well, they didn't, did they? Thousands of them were executed, of the protesters. And Trump says, well, you can't do that anymore. So what they did was arrest them instead. But in the meantime, they did not have their back. The protesters who were marching down the streets thought the U.S. may help them out. They didn't. This is the same thing that George Bush Sr. did in Iraq after the first war. He encouraged everybody to rise up against Saddam. We got your back, and then turned his back on them.
Yeah,
and
well, there's two carrier groups with their associated flotilla of warships currently out in the Middle East, which is USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Gerald Ford. Right, so they're ready to go.
Well, Gerald Ford is the hugest one, but we've talked about what the problem is with Gerald Ford is it doesn't have enough toilets, and it has the incredible amount of sewage trouble, so you can never deploy it for very long before you got to go and fix the plumbing problems. When they designed it, they didn't design it for the amount of crew that actually had to go there. So I probably the one that we have to worry about for sustainability would be Abraham Lincoln.
So they've got so alongside the USS Gerald Ford, they've got a boat there. Basically a latrine boat. Yes.
Yeah, they may have, but anyway, they always have problems. There's big lineups at the latrines and so on. Yeah, that kind of so that I don't know what it happens to these people. The Hajj Khalifa, the largest building in the world, I think. Where is it, in Qatar, or where is it? The UAE,
Bahrain? No, not
is the UAE.
Yeah, Qatar. It's Dubai.
Dubai. Well,
Dubai. Yeah.
It is the largest. What they forgot to do is design the sewers to take care of it. So what happens in the Hajj Khalifa, the world's largest and most sophisticated building, the tallest of them all, they forgot about the plumbing. And what do we do about the waste that comes out of there?
Yeah,
they have to truck it away every day.
Yeah,
they didn't figure out what to do with it. Somebody forgot that part of the plans. But anyway, I'm getting diverted here. But the problem, of course, is one of the things the Americans are worried about is a swarm attack from Iran. They will be very careful before they launch any attack to make sure that the Iranians can't do a swarm attack. A swarm attack, of course, is thousands of or hundreds of drones and intermixed with them missiles and not ICBMs, but very fast hypersonic missiles that will go after a battleship or an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
So they'll have to make sure that the Iranians are not capable of that, because that would be very embarrassing if the Iranians were able to blow up one of those. On the other hand, do the Iranians really want to do that? Because if they are successful in taking out an aircraft carrier using swarm tactics, then that means the U.S. is committed to a longer war.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, by all accounts, therefore, then the gentlemen in the USS Gerald Ford are probably praying that they do take it down, because then at least they'll get it. They can jump off the side, and then at least they'll get a decent carrier next time around, eh?
Yeah. The next one we want was better toilets. But the fact here is we are in a dangerous time here. The Trump administration has pushed for no more extended wars. But it seems to be getting itself into that place where an extended war may happen.
Yep.
I think what it did, without looking at the ethics, without looking at the morality of it or anything like that, the strike they made on Venezuela was perfect. They went in, they took out the leader, and they left in place the government that was already there. And basically what they said, you are now our client state. They didn't say it like that, but that's what everybody realizes. You are now our client state. You can stay in the government as you want, but you have to deliver oil to us and open your markets for our oil producers to get in there. That's the conditions. We are now the boss. You run things, but you take orders from us. Go ahead and do everything. It's like the Romans did to King Herod. Look, you run the show here and collect taxes for us, and we'll let you can just carry on the way you are.
One important question, though, Dave, raised by Rick here is: what about Iran's their terror cells around the world run by Iran? And we know they exist in certain parts, very, very effective in certain parts.
Well, the terror cells that were that mostly that we worry about were the ones in and around the Middle East. We know that Iran supplied munitions and political and economic support to the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah. Less so Hamas than Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a Shia group. The Houthis is a Shia group. So sometimes these were religiously aligned. I don't think anyone's too afraid of the Iranian cells around the world because I don't think they're that sophisticated, to tell you the truth. And I don't think I would be more worried about a Chinese cell or something of that kind. But the Iranian cells, I think a lot of it's overstated. Because where have the Iranian cells really done any damage anywhere outside of the Middle East?
Yeah,
where they have traditional enemies back and forth.
Yeah.
So
and that's essentially it. They have been known to lob a few bombs towards Israel, and largely the Israeli attacks have been met with knock them out the sky weapons anyway. So they're not being very effective against Israel.
Well, you talk about cells. Israel has a lot more cells inside of Iran than Iran has cells inside of Israel or the United States. There was a lot of, as you remember, when Israel and America in the U.S. were attacking Iran, they had a lot of people within the country working with them. And unfortunately for the Jewish community in Iran, they're under target all the time.
Yeah,
everybody suspects, well, it must be the Iranian Jewish population that is part of this clandestine move, but not necessarily. The Israelis are very, very good at blending in, stealing other people's passports. They use Canadian passports. They use Australian passports. They are extremely good intelligence operatives. So I don't think there's too much worry about cells. I think lone wolf attackers are more of a threat, and that would be only isolated. I don't think, and if you you'd have to take out the total Iranian administration to be able to rein in whatever kind of intelligence operations they have around the world. Are you willing to do that? And plus, Iran has demonstrated in its war games recently that it can choke off the Straits of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil comes through. That's not going to please China one bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think probably they're going to come up with some kind of deal. The conditions they have given Iran right now are unacceptable. You can't have your own missiles. You can't have your own nuclear process and all that. Remember, up until recently, the Iranians had the inspectors come in, and everybody was pretty comfortable that they were not they were not enriching uranium past a certain point. But once after the first Trump administration, they made a point of showing everybody they could do that. And of course, that exacerbated things. And meanwhile, Netanyahu has said, if you look at old news reports, 30 years ago, he said Iran's on the cusp of getting a nuclear bomb. Any day now, within 2 years, within 2 months, Iran will have a nuclear bomb. It never has had, and they've said it for 30 years. I mean, especially Israel have gone to the U.S. Congress or United Nations saying Iran's going to put a bomb on the market. They're going to get a bomb going any day now. Sometimes they say within 3 years, sometimes they say within 3 months, but it's never been true. It's only been there to people.
If you've got the parts, you can build a bomb in less than 2 weeks.
Well, the enrichment thing and the delivery system, it's not as easy as you think. Yeah, you can have enriched uranium.
If you've got a supply of enriched uranium, you can certainly get a bomb created. Because this is actually one of the things about the people who were talking about disarmament in the UK, who were talking about it. I'm thinking to myself, well, it was crazy because everybody knows that you could put a bomb to, you could rearm. In a war situation, you could rearm the country in a couple of weeks because you've got everything ready. If you've got all the nukes, the weapon grade material, you can build a weapon in no time.
Yeah, well, they need the centrifuges and all that other stuff, and it's not easy to get away with trying to refine that much weapons grade and fissile material.
I believe Iran is capable of doing that, right? They've got they had capable facilities. There's no reason to assume they don't have.
Look, Pakistan was able to put a bomb together back in the 70s,
exactly,
right, with a lot less sophistication than Iran has.
Exactly.
Yes. I think Canada can make a nuclear bomb tomorrow if it wanted.
Yes.
Because it has nuclear facilities, it can make fissile material. As a matter of fact, in Saskatchewan, we've got more uranium than the largest resources of uranium. So as far as fissile bombs, we could make dozens of them. But Brazil could make them. Argentina could make them.
Yes, exactly.
South Africa. The reason why Israel has the nuclear bombs is because they worked with South Africa. They had a team. They were working with South Africa to make a nuclear bomb. South Africa was stymied, but the Israelis were able to carry on with it. But they needed the South Africans' cooperation in those days.
Yeah. My point being is that most nations have what is necessary to create a bomb if they so desire. That's all.
Yeah, the amount of the whole point here, though, you're going to have a delivery system. You're going to have all this other stuff. Most of the time, the bomb is there for a deterrent effect. So why did Pakistan get a bomb? It's because India had a bomb. Why did the USSR get a bomb? Because the West had a bomb.
Yeah.
Right. Why did China get a bomb? Because everybody else had a bomb.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. All right. Okay. Anything else on that? I'm not sure this is necessarily going ahead. We'll see. I hope it doesn't.
I think Trump's instincts up until now is to stay away from prolonged war, and we can see what he did we can see what he's doing now in Cuba. He's strangling the country to get what he wants. Doesn't have to go in there with soldiers. The same thing with Venezuela. One quick strike, and then he turned the country into a client state just instantly like that by keeping the powers that be, the oppressive regime, the oppressive communist socialist regime. They left it in place. So we see that ideology has nothing to do with Trump's plans here. It's whatever's most convenient for him and the U.S. And we'll find out in Iran what was going to happen It will be deadly. I'll be very, very disappointed if they start dropping bombs and stuff, because here would go again.
Yeah, it's Go on.
I think they could probably come up with a deal, and if they can come up with a deal where Iran is sort of a semi-client state, that might work. Where they have eyes on Iran's nuclear facilities, which they did have prior to Trump. When Obama came in, he had that deal where you had Russia, China, Germany, and everybody keeping an eye on them as part of that deal, so that they wouldn't make nuclear bombs. But let's face it, they're a big country, and they're going to need electrical power, and the best way to make electrical power, if you don't have a whole lot of is nukes.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot of hydro, gas and oil will only get you so far.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on. So Ontarians without a family doctor face a higher risk of death.
Yeah. Well, you can expect that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
What that pretty much that article really says is that there is a tremendous dearth of doctors in Canada and Ontario too, that put people in a vulnerable position. You have to go to clinics, you have to do things like that to find some kind of medical care. You don't have consistency in your medical care if you don't have a family doctor. So of course that puts you in a vulnerable position. The whole idea is you should have a continuity of care. A family doctor. My family doctor knows just about everything about my health, because every time I go to a specialist or anything else, I make sure that my family doctor gets the records, so they know exactly.
Actually, it's not up to you to make sure that they get the records. They do by default.
No, they don't. They ask me. They ask.
Oh, really?
They ask. Do you want this to be shared with your GP? And I said yes, always.
I thought they were supposed to all the time. I always make sure. I always answer yes to that question. I always thought they were supposed to. Anyway, yeah, and it's obvious. It's an obvious thing that if you don't have a doctor to be able to call on, and hey, it's one thing to not go to your doctor. Not go to your doctor for more than a year, but it's quite another thing not to have a doctor when you need one.
That's the big thing. Like, I've had to phone my doctor. I don't think I've phoned my doctor in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But I had to phone him this week,
But Gary's got a solution. No doctor, no problem. Go fishing. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Gary. We're with you. Well, no, I'm not coming down the slope to go. I'm not going to endanger myself going down that slope.
Who's that guy with the oxygen tank and a wheelchair fishing? Oh, it must be some sick dude who figured that doing this instead of going to a doctor is better.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you it's psychologically beneficial to do that, to go fishing. I see Gary's little films on videos when he puts on Facebook and stuff. Looks like he's having fun out there, man.
Yeah. Even though it does. But my challenge is I wouldn't get down that pathway. My ankles wouldn't take it.
Well, right now I'm having arthritic attacks, so I wouldn't be able to either. But still, I've done it and I've been there, so I know what he's doing.
Your right index finger is got my support, Gary. Mm-hmm. All right, my mental support.
I don't think you want that mental part, Gary.
All right. Okay. Anything else on that? Because it's obvious, it's a fairly clear thing, and we need to actually get the family doctor crisis solved.
Well, this is a problem. Now, I'll be the devil's advocate here a little bit, but I would say that generally speaking, when you have socialized medicine or socialized anything, what happens is the government gets too involved, it gets layered over with senseless amounts of bureaucracy, and we get a non-functional, super expensive, inefficient system. I don't know how other countries do it. A lot of other countries seem to have medical, free medical, like we do here, or an OHIP type of thing, and they seem to be able to run it better. I mean, in the little island of Dominica, okay.
Britain has a doctor problem, a GP problem as well.
Well, yeah, and in the United States they do too, because oddly enough, doctors are finding it very, very difficult to get insurance. So they leave either the country or get into something here. So they leave the practice of being a GP and get into something else in the medical field. Well, because a private doctor trying to get insurance is very costly.
Yeah, and many actual American doctors have been heading north.
Yeah, I'm thinking, one of the things that Cuba makes or produces are educated people. They may not be a very wealthy place, but one of the things they were very successful at is their education program. They were able to take a largely backward island and get everybody well educated.
That was
among them would be doctors, engineers, and things like that. They have really, anyone who's been through the health system in Cuba will tell you that it's really good despite not having a whole lot of resources. Yeah. So I'm saying, let's get some Cuban doctors up here.
Or maybe do it like Cuba is doing it, right?
Or something like that. But in the meantime, in the meantime, you could really get something going here. We could get a lot of qualified Cuban doctors up here. They ship their doctors everywhere.
Yeah.
So
all right. Okay. And while we're on the healthcare field, there was a worker injured at the Niagara Falls hospital construction site this week.
Yeah, but it doesn't go into the injuries, does it?
Yeah, unfortunately. And that's sometimes the way what we get with some of these articles. They're just very brief. They give the fact that somebody was injured, but they don't do any more than that.
I'm not so sure. Like in this particular case, it may protect the contractor more than it may talk to the worker. Now, first of all, as a steward, as an ex-steward and president of my union, the first thing I want to know is what happened.
Yeah.
And what were the safety? What was the safety things there that were supposed to stop any kind of accident? So what kind of safety measures were in place? And so right away, I can look at that and say, okay, we can find out why this happened. Sometimes it's the workers' responsibility because they try to take shortcuts and so on. Yeah. Other times, the safety measures that are there are not adequate.
Yeah. And for example, what we're not talking about here is a worker hitting their thumb with a hammer or something during some process, some of the work. That we're talking about obviously something more serious than that, right?
This is a lost time accident.
Yeah.
And the details of which are not there. So it's very frustrating for a guy like me. And of course, the privacy issues are important and all that. But it really is frustrating for me when you get a news report like that and you have a worker evidently is serious enough to be a lost time, but we can't tell you what happened. We can't tell you what his name. We can't tell you what the safety protocols were in place, et cetera, et cetera. All we can tell you is there has been somebody hurt on site, and it really doesn't tell us a whole lot. So we have to wait.
And it tells us that Lisa Campanella from Ellis Don has said that the injured workers recovering in hospital, and out of respect for their privacy, they'll not provide any further details on their condition. That seems all too convenient get out to me.
It depends here. Like, who are they trying to protect? Are they trying to protect the investigative process? They don't want people to step in and they want to keep it under wraps till they come up with a good investigation. They don't want too many people to interfere with it. I think as far as any of the workers there, they have to be made very aware of why that accident happened. And like, you can tell the newspaper, no, I can't tell you anything.
I'm sorry. Rick came up with, at least he was at the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good place to injure yourself.
Yeah, but it's a non-working hospital, so you still have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, his timing was all wrong there. I'll tell you that. His timing was wrong. He was in the right place at the wrong time.
Yeah. He needed a time machine to get sorted. Where were you injured, sir? Right here, 4 years ago.
Yeah. But so as I was saying, if this guy's been injured, but all the workers there on site have to be made aware of what happened to him, why it happened to him, so that this does not duplicate itself.
Yeah.
Whether it was the worker taking shortcuts, or whether it was safety measures not in place, or safety measures not up to snuff.
Yeah, or something breaking or something. Yeah, because obviously there's a lot of when you're building a building like that, they're swinging. There's a lot of stuff being carried by cranes, and if something on a crane breaks, that could potentially cause an injury, of course, couldn't it?
That should not happen if the safety protocols are done.
Right. Yeah,
because you have to check your cranes wires, you have to check your cranes, everything. You have to do a whole safety.
Absolutely.
And nobody gets under a load, right? Nobody gets under a load.
Yeah, but it doesn't. You could still be injured by a whiplash from one of those chains releasing, couldn't you?
Well, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen a chain pop and it whips. I've seen wire rope break too.
Yeah.
But chains are worse, because once a link goes, that's it. It flies. But when a wire rope goes, it splays out. It pays out more slowly, right? And the wires start to break one at a time here and there. Yeah. So usually you get a lot more warning before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But when a chain let goes, it just breaks and whips.
Yeah.
Because it's a link. But all that, all those things are supposed to be taken care of in the safety protocols. Everybody knows how to inspect the chain. Everybody knows how to inspect wire rope, or you should know how.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be using wire rope or chain that hasn't been inspected, and should be inspected just practically daily. There are lots of safety protocols out there. We don't know what happened to this guy. I think it's probably a fall myself. That's my instinct on this one.
Mm-hmm.
But because I've worked a lot of construction jobs, a lot of industrial construction jobs. I've worked residential too, but mostly industrial construction and things of that kind. I've been around cranes and chains and scaffolding and all that kind of stuff, and I can tell you there's been a few nightmares I come across. It's only very lucky that nobody did get hurt. Sometimes people do get hurt. My own brother lost his fingers in an accident, so where at a site that I was working at, and yet all the safety protocols were in place. It was just an accident that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Everything was done right, and still the accident happened.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. So a former Conservative MP is telling those floor crossers, get it done. If you're gonna walk. And I guess what they're basically saying there is give Pierre Poilievre some certainty about where he is from now on.
Yeah, this is what's her name? Right? I got to get the article up. And she's pretty much told the Conservative Party, anyone thinking of
Yeah,
crossing the border, do
Lisa
it
Ray.
now. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's her
Lisa
name.
Ray,
And
former Conservative cabinet minister, and she's basically saying if you're going to switch sides, do it now, get it over with, right? Because, and I get where she's coming from, because what she's saying is give Mr. Polyev some certainty about what he's working with right now.
yeah, I think I think it's a bit of frustration here because there is evidently, like, we don't hear it here, but evidently there's lots of murmuring in and among the Conservative caucus about people crossing the floor.
Yeah,
I think this has, as we've just found out the other day, when one crossed the floor, who's supposed to retire but didn't cross the floor instead.
yeah.
So we do find here is a lot of conservative finding that they have they feel more comfortable with the liberal approach. They think under Carney, it's not is evidently obviously not the same as what's happening under Trudeau. In fact, it's light years away from what was under Trudeau. Trudeau didn't really seem to be much of a government at all. It was outsized, bloated, and inefficient. Yeah. Now you have the opposite. Yeah. You've got this banker businessman type of thing, making practical and pragmatic decisions. And when you're on the other side of the floor, you're conservative, and you see this very centrist type of fellow that even looks like a conservative at times when it comes to his policies. I think you're thinking two things. Do I have a better future if I go across the floor? Will I get elected more if I become a liberal? Or, but on the other hand, does he have a better plan than us right now? Do I want to be a part of that?
Again, a more centrist conservative has probably got more in common with Carney than he has with Polyev.
That's hard to say because we don't know with any kind of definition where Polyev is moving right now. He is changing his whole approach.
That's for sure. I grant you that. Absolutely.
He's changing his approach. He is when he was attacking Trudeau, he was very good at it. He was his own attack dog. I loved hearing him cut down Trudeau or the other liberals. He did that really good. But when it came up against, he tried that same tack against Carney, and it didn't work one bit. And he was warned that it wouldn't work, and it didn't. Nevertheless, he got more conservative seats than expected. But he has a real problem with his image as a party leader. Conservatives have a pretty good image all in all, but their leader does not for the average Canadian, whereas Carney has a lot of respect. Even if you don't agree with his policies, he has a lot of respect going his way. We are avoiding with Carney right now is that brutal sectarian, almost political sectarian violence, to overstate it, is happening in the United States. Whereas we're right, you're wrong. We're right and you're wrong. There is no middle ground, right? You're going to be a MAGA guy, or you're going to be a MAGA fascist capitalist swine, or you're going to be a godless communist socialist pig. So you have one or the other, depending on what you are. It says at the end of the day, they want to be part of history. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah,
that's a very, very good point, because they see themselves now. Do I sit here with the conservatives, and it doesn't seem that they have much of a future? And we can be a responsible opposition party, but on the other side of the aisle, we have a real innovator there.
Yeah,
we've got Carney, and he can see a little bit farther than the rest. At least it looks like that way.
Yeah. And yeah. So if they're actually, and the other thing about this is that the question is one of, are we going to be having an election in May, which a lot of people think we will be going to, and certain elections Canada are geared up for such an event. The other question is that are you going to be if not, if you cross the floor now, that gives some certainty to the Liberal government, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. If they get enough now, they'll get a majority, and they'll be able to. They may be able to avoid an election, but it'll be a narrow majority. So
it will be.
So the kind of things they vote on would have to be things that are not ideological ones, that are more practical ones. Do we put a pipeline here or there, or do we put do we do this or that with the economy? Now, what Rick has pointed out there, they might want to be part of history, and that's a good thing too, because what we might be avoiding up here, like I say, is that brutal division, the you're with me or you're against me on both sides of the aisle down south. Up here, we may be finding a situation where can we get together and make the country better? Do we have to be in power to be able to help the country move forward?
Yeah,
it is our job as opposition leaders to point out flaws in the government process. But if the government process looks pretty good, do we support it? Do we go against it just because it's their side? And that's what you find. What's happened in the United States. Newt Gingrich apparently started it years ago, where he instructed his people. It doesn't matter what it is on the other side, the Democrats. It doesn't matter what it is, we're against it. Doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it's bad, doesn't matter if it's in between, we're against it. We're always against it.
Yeah, and just because it has the wrong color flag behind the supporting the bill, we oppose it because we're the other color flag.
Yeah, they got very tribal. And of course, the response from the Democrats was similar. They got very tribal as well.
And that's what I was trying to say with, irrespective of what your color flag is, you're always going to oppose the other color flag. Yeah.
And so it's very, very difficult for the American politicians to be bipartisan in any kind of way. And look what happens to a guy like a man of character like Thomas Massey, who just wants to get things done properly. He's a very staunch conservative, but he doesn't believe, he wants to get at the Epstein files and do the things that they promised in that case, and then he gets a lot of grief. Now he's thought to be a traitor to the cause. I think up here we can get around that. We don't have to play that stupid game. We can be, is it good for Canada? And I'll remind everybody, the party that brought in OHIP into Ontario was a Conservative party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Conservative Party of Ontario brought in socialized medicine.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Andrew's been arrested over the Epstein files, but essentially where he is right now is the arrest was on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Well, you think to yourself, well, he wasn't in public office as such, but as a royal, of course, he was, right? And King Charles has already said is that the authorities have full and wholehearted support of has the royal support and cooperation in all matters, and it will take it wherever it will take it.
Well, what's happened is it's a little bit deeper than just being a perv. It's he's shared secrets and things of that kind which he should not have. He was part of the governing bodies based. I forget exactly which one it was, but he is being accused of selling or sharing. I don't know, industrial secrets or something of that kind that he didn't have permission to do.
Well, he was a trade envoy, yes, for certain things. and he would have been privy to information whilst he was in the inner royal circle, to privy to certain information that is released. And the issue is there are so this is actually would be a crime where this would be a crime because it's involving UK business, UK interests, and therefore it is a crime inside the UK. But the other thing to note is the UK can arrest and try people within the UK for 3 areas. One is murder, 2 is sex crimes, and 3 is war crimes.
Yeah. Now we find that the fallout of, like, this is the very first time since 350 years, since the 1600s, when they chopped off the head of King Charles II, that there's been this much of this degree of an arrest on a royal family member.
Yeah.
Even though outside of Britain, when we look at that, I just shrug my shoulders. Yeah, he should be arrested. But because the royal family has been able to dodge this because of privilege all along the way, this was quite a bit of shock for Britons, even though they might have thought he deserved it. This is a difference here, and his brother is wholeheartedly for it. Now you got to think. What does his brother know that nobody else knows? If he's turning his brother in, if he's saying, okay, do your course of duty, he realizes his brother is not being loyal to the nation, basically. And he's 66 years old the day he got arrested on the 66th birthday. But you have to see the ramifications they're having out of these files. So you wondered why, when during the Biden administration, you had enormous amounts of right-wing influencers demanding the files be released. Kash Patel and J.D. Vance especially went on and on about how Biden was covering up the files, how the Biden administration was making sure that nobody could see them, and they were obscuring them. And once they got into power, suddenly the reverse happened. Nothing to see here. And we find the Democrats now pushing for the opening of them. Yeah. Because you can understand why Biden didn't open up or go after that files, because it's a can of worms. Yeah. And that's the exact can of worms that the Trump administration is trying to put the cap back on that can of worms, because in that can of worms, they expected to see all kinds of Democrats. Well, they are. But who else they see there? They see RFK. He's part of the administration. Dr. Oz, he's part of the administration. The Deputy of Defense Secretary, Stephen Feinberg, he's in it. He's in the administration. The Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, we talked about, he's in it. He, of course, lied about his involvement. The Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, he's on the list. Federal nominee for the Fed, Kevin Walsh, he's in it. Who is it? Tom Barak, ambassador to Turkey, he's on it. Elon Musk is in it. Steve Bannon is in it. And we have people like Joe Rogan and Liz Taylor pushing for the opening of this. And Kash Patel and J.D. Vance continually push for these, for the list of the files to be open, because they said the Biden administration was hiding the client list. But now they say, well, nothing to see here. Biden would have opened it up if it was going to be bad for Trump, because he didn't. There must not be anything here.
Okay, let's bring this local for a second. St. Catharines has a motion next Monday about removing a street name, and let's be very clear where I am. I went on to Google. Prince Andrew Court in St. Catharines they're looking at changing the name. Toronto, yes, there's a Prince Andrew Place in North York. There's a Prince Andrew Island in Lakefield, Ontario. There's a Prince Andrew Drive in Caledon, Ontario. There's there's a different name. Yeah. So we've got four names up for potential name changing.
Yeah, yeah, that's happening all over the world right now. Every Commonwealth nation is looking at and in my mind, why did they name them after them in the beginning? Like they didn't do anything great. So you got Prince Andrew, you got Princess Margaret, you got all that kind of thing. Are they stellar royals? Did they do something very great or anything? No, they just named them because they were royals.
Probably because they've done a visit to Canada at some point, you know?
Yeah, I just think it's dumb.
Yeah.
The Queen Elizabeth Way is not named after Queen Elizabeth II. It's named after the Queen Mum, who is also Elizabeth.
Yeah. Because it was named in her honor because this was actually before Queen Elizabeth acceded to the throne, wasn't it? Because it was done
long before. Yeah. Queen Liz was just a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It was 1939, and it was one of the most advanced highways of its time, and they built it because they anticipated a war, and they were going to need supplies coming from the States, and they knew that.
There you go. All right. Okay. So Prince Andrew's been arrested. Let's just move on to the next item. There's a question about accurate records accelerated the region's response to measles over the last year.
Yeah, sadly, we are not at the level of inoculations or vaccinations that would ensure herd immunity. You have to be 95%, and we're only around 82, 83, 87% in some places, 82% in other places. And this is a little bit of a problem because you have outbreaks of measles. This is something avoidable. This is something you didn't hear of until you started hearing, a lot of people decided not to vaccinate their kids. I knew some very intelligent people that fell for that. People in the medical that fell for it, not the medical so much, but associated medical things, like other health care providers would buy into this. The vaccinations weren't good, that they were very bad for you, but they couldn't produce they said, here it is right here, and all that. But they were not, there wasn't a full investigation on it, but people bought that. It started when they said that vaccinations would increase the probability of a kid getting autism. That turned out not to be true. But once it was out there and scared enough parents, they didn't want to make they didn't want to make the possible mistake of getting a vaccination. What happens then is now you have outbreaks of measles. They can do a whole lot of damage. Now, measles can do more damage to an adult most of the time, but they've already had a kid die, a baby die here because the mother was not vaccinated.
Yeah. Again, you're right that measles can do more damage to an adult than it can to a child. The whole point being is that that's one of the reasons why you have the measles vaccine out there, and why people like you and I, our generation, often went through measles as a child, right? I don't remember whether I had it or not, because we didn't have a vaccine at the time.
I had measles. I had measles, chickenpox, whooping cough.
I suspect I had the lot.
They have vaccines.
Never had whooping cough.
Yeah. So they have vaccines for them now.
Yeah. I suspect I had the lot. I never had whooping cough. But you're right. They have vaccines for all of these things now. And the whole point about the vaccine is that because measles as an adult is a lot more devastating than measles as a child, the adult version of measles is much more devastating and it is potential death threat.
Yeah, but it can also be a very bad health condition for a child too. The measles can lead to dehydration. It can lead to inflammatory things. So even though the children seem to be more resilient to the bad effects of measles. They can also actually die of measles. So this is a disease that we don't need to get. You can be vaccinated for it. Unfortunately, the vaccination rate's gone down, immunization rate. This is a situation where some very bad information got out there and has affected the average person's view of vaccinations. And a lot of people think they're protecting their kids by not getting them vaccinated. I've had this argument with people over and over. Yes, you do need vaccinations. Vaccinations have saved the lives of hundreds of thousands, millions of people. Polio vaccinations, like our friend Dr. Sock there, gave that away for $1 or something like that. What about Banting and Best? Well, that's not a vaccination, but he gave it away for a couple of bucks too. But the whole idea, shingles, there's a good one too. Yeah, if you can get vaccination against shingles, that can be extremely painful.
But shingles is adult measles, isn't it?
I think it's adult chickenpox, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. Absolute chickenpox. I knew it was adult one of those. Which is one of the reasons they say, because what happened, we were on vacation when my son got chickenpox, and we went to a local doctor there, and you know what? He said, yeah, congratulations, spread it around.
Well, that's what we used to do. That's what our parents used to do. When a kid got chickenpox, you sent your kid over there to hang out with them until they got chickenpox. Because the idea was the kids can get chickenpox when they're young and not have a really bad reaction. But if you get them as an adult, particularly men, if men got chickenpox as an adult, it may cause them to become impotent. It may affect their sex organs.
I mean, shingles can actually be quite. There are deaths from shingles. There are statistics about shingles deaths.
But mostly, it is a very painful and irritating thing that you don't have to go through because you can get a vaccination. Even if you do get it, it would be a much more milder form. So the whole idea, this idea of vaccinations, I seriously don't think they're overdone. I think vaccinations are done by public health for the right reasons, to keep people healthier, to avoid them from getting mumps. Like I got mumps, I had whooping cough, I had chickenpox, I had measles. I think I had mumps a couple of times, but whatever, you build up an immunity. That's what they used to do. And chickenpox, you want your kid to get chickenpox or get inoculated for chickenpox before they become an adult, because it can do much more damage there. But why go through it when you can be inoculated for it? Why have to suffer through it?
Yeah. One further thing that we have to talk about before we go, and I don't intend to talk about it for too long at all, is Bob Gale is currently looking at urgent changes to the regional government, including less elected officials and possible amalgamations. And he's expecting to come up with a recommendation in the next few weeks.
Yes, I think we should revisit that on Monday. It's an excellent. Bob Gale is, he's not wasting any time. He's getting right down to the nitty gritty. I've never seen anybody move that fast on an issue. The issue that everybody's been bouncing around, maybe yes, maybe no, for a long time. Well, he comes right down to it, starts writing letters. Let's get on with this.
Yeah,
like right now. Oh, okay, good. I mean, you can make a decision, yes, no, or maybe, but it's on the floor. Let's get it done. Let's decide it.
I think the other thing that Bob Gale is thinking about and has to think about is that, let's be honest, let's answer the question, when is the next election? Oh, it's October. Yeah.
Yeah, but also he points out that there are 124 MPPs for all of Ontario, and there's 126 elected representatives for just the Niagara region.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a problem. We've got too many in the Niagara region, that's for sure, particularly when it comes to the people that are actually in the region. And
Rick says Peel's already done it.
Yeah.
we'll have to look into that too.
Yeah. All right. So that's something for next week. So we'll leave it there.
Anyway, like I always do, I say, keep an eye on Gaza. They have some really extraordinary plans. Some of the plans for Gaza. At first, the first plan of Trump was to get rid of all the Palestinians out of Gaza and make it a resort. Then he said, okay, maybe some of the Palestinians could stay and then the Israelis could run it. But now he hasn't said anything about getting rid of the Palestinians, but the plans show that the Palestinian population could not be sustained by where they plan to put the housing. So we'll have to look into that. Like, seriously, the Palestinians are taking a beating on this over and over and over again. They've been the victims continually since 1897 when Zionism began. There's got to be a better way. And to make that a prosperous resort area, that would be great. But it has to include the Palestinians. That's their territory.
Yeah.
Right? So
absolutely.
without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace.